People often talk about the idea of playoff risers and droppers, or maybe 82 game players versus 16 game players. Some stars like LeBron or Jimmy Butler definitely turn things up a notch from their regular season intensity and offensive aggression. And on the other side, maybe there are a few guys where the lights really are too bright for them in the playoffs. But for the most part, players don't just magically become better once the calendar hits April and May. Now of course, different skill sets are going to translate differently to the playoffs. Versatility is key, and your weaknesses are going to be honed in on by opposing game plans. Being able to defend in space, play multiple coverages, and then having a diverse scoring skill set that can beat different defenses is how the best players in the world adapt to the variety of opponents you'll face in a deep playoff run. But playoff performance is also context dependent. Not only being in the right role for your skill set, but your play is going to vary depending on how well you match up with a certain opponent. And there's also shooting variance. Playoff series are short sample sizes, and sometimes you'll simply just have a hot or cold playoff series. Now, I see Jrue Holiday as the perfect example of someone who may have been seen as a playoff dropper, at least offensively, but was really just miscast in his role. Holiday's playoff efficiency totally created Milwaukee as he was overtaxed as the lead ball handler. Asking Jrue to create a heavy dose of his own offense, consistently play on the ball, take a high number of pull-up jumpers against elite playoff defenses is not a recipe for success for him or the team. Ideally, Jrue's your second or third creator who can bully smaller guards, run a little bit of pick and roll, and knock down spot-up looks or attack off the bench. Over Jrue's 3 playoff runs in Milwaukee, he put up a ghastly 47.6 true shooting percentage. Now for context, league average is about 58%, so he was about 10% below that mark. Jrue was below 50% mark in each of those 3 seasons, including the year the Bucks won the championship. Obviously, that's not to say that Jrue wasn't a huge part of Milwaukee's success. He came up clutch on numerous occasions in that run, and his style of defense was crucial. It's fair to say that Milwaukee does not win that title without making the Eric Bledsoe to Jrue Holiday upgrade. But simply from an offensive standpoint, there's no doubt that Jrue is more suited for this role he has now in Boston. His playoff efficiency has skyrocketed to 61.4% true shooting, well above league average. He still creates a little bit of offense in Boston, but now those opportunities are against weaker defenders, and the creation is more of a side dish of his game rather than the main portion. Where Jrue has really found success is finding opportunistic buckets, finding open space in the defense as a cutter, relocating for open threes off the ball, a tackling, scrambling defense off of spot-ups where Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum create those opportunities for him. He fills lanes in transition. He'll sneak in for some layups in the dunker spot. Let's break down just how much easier Jrue's shots have gotten in Boston. In Milwaukee, 24% of his shots came from the mid-range. That's down to just 6% in Boston. About a quarter of his 2-point field goals were assisted in Milwaukee. That's up to nearly half in Boston. Jrue's gone from half his threes being assisted to nearly 70%. The threes he does take are coming in more efficient spots too. Twice as many of those looks are coming from the corners, and less of them are pull-ups. Jrue is a capable pull-up shooter, but he's not a guy you want jacking a ton of pull-up threes at a super high volume. Now, Jrue's actually probably overqualified for the role he has now in Boston as the 5th or 4th guy, but he's more than willing to sacrifice for the team. It's an insane luxury for a team to have an all-star from last year be more than happy to just fill in as a 4th or 5th guy and then just step up as needed. This Jrue Holiday, Derek White backcourt brings so much to the table for Boston without taking away from what their stars do. Holiday and White complement the Jays' skill sets while ensuring that there's nowhere for weak defenders on the other team to hide. We're seeing that on display in these finals, with Luke and Kyrie having nowhere to hide. Dallas wants to switch everything, but that becomes harder to do when every single Celtics starter can attack you off the dribble, or run pick and rolls, or even be used as the screener. Round out this starting 5 with an elite spacing big in Kristaps Porzingis, who also obliterates mismatches, and Boston offense just becomes an endless nightmare for opponents to deal with. And of course, Jrue's defense has also been a major factor in Kyrie having his worst series of the postseason. Drew's strength, his ultra-quick hands, physical screen navigation, and anticipation have allowed him to keep Kyrie consistently in front of him and have to live on a tougher diet of shots. Ultimately, the main point of this video though is pointing out how context is key for the vast majority of players. Next time you see a player struggling mightily in the playoffs, you shouldn't just immediately write them off as being a poor playoff performer. Sometimes, maybe their game really doesn't translate well to the postseason, but oftentimes, a player is just miscast in their role. Aaron Gordon and Andrew Wiggins would be other great examples of this. Both of those guys were top 4 picks whose original teams envisioned them as a primary or secondary creator, but their ultimate destiny on a championship team was to be that glue piece. Let me know if you agree, and thank you for watching.